Hey guys, Brian from Snowwalker Bushcraft, and today we're going to start our third season of Shadows in the Forest. And in an effort to continue to raise the bar in this series, it's in its third season right now. What I've decided to do is I wanted to show you places that I've gone for research. And the first place that I've expanded my knowledge with research is in Fairmont, West Virginia. It's a place called Prickett's Fort. At Prickett's Fort, we attended the School of the Longhunter. So that's where we're going to go today. So, a little history about Prickett's Fort. Prickett's Fort was constructed in 1744, and it provided shelter and refuge from Indian uprising for the early settlers of West Virginia. The fort itself was built at the confluence of Prickett's Creek and the Monongahela River, which was approximately 10 miles of 3 well-traveled and well-worn Indian trails. The walls stood 12 feet high. It was 110 feet by 110 feet square. It had 4 two-story blockhouses which provided lookout positions, and approximately 80 families would seek the confines during Indian battles. And that's the entrance to Prickett's Fort. We're at Prickett's Fort. Mike Galvin was the first speaker that we had in the series of seminars. Now Mike Galvin, who you'll see in this picture, he's actually wearing a white capote, is currently the public historian of the Onondaga State Historic Site in Victor, New York. So as I said, the first discussion was the Tumplines by Mike Galvin. The native word is kasa, meaning tumpline, or strap, halter, or burden strap. It was the second most viewed item in the native culture, and they were very special. For the women, most of the time, they would carry the cradle boards, so they would carry their infants. For the men, though, they would carry their war bundles, they would carry their survival gear, they would carry their bedrolls, and their accoutrements to go along with it. Now here's 2 examples of woven tumplines. This first one that you've seen, okay, my friend Steve Davis made. And it's made from jute twine. I took a stab in the dark and created my own, and it's made out of jute as well, having a couple of different colors and a different pattern. They prided themselves on how they made these tumplines, and they were woven by the women. A lot of times they were woven from the inner bark of basswood trees. Inner bark of cedar could be used. They even used dogbane to weave into the twining sections. Moose hair, especially, was used as a false embroidery during the twining process. One of the earliest examples of geometric pattern and of workmanship that is on display is in the British Museum, and it is a Mohawk Iroquois tumpline that was dated back to 1710, and that's in the British Museum, and you'll see that in this picture here. Again, you can see how intricate the work was in this tumpline. Mike went on to say that there was numerous documents referring to British soldiers even using tumplines to carry their bedrolls, much as the frontier woodsmen as well as the natives at the time. Even as early as up to the 19th century, tumplines were used, but then by that time they were actually commercially produced. The tumpline was actually a very, very expensive item, and not many people at that time would have the money to have them commissioned to be made for them. But it was said at one point that a tumpline would cost more than buying 3 flintlocks of the time period. So that shows you how expensive that one item was. Alright, so that's a little bit about the history of Tumplines and some insights as to some of Mike's research. He is putting out a book. He thinks probably within 4 years he's going to have that book completed. So, something to look forward to. Now let's go ahead, let's make a Tumpline today. And let's discuss some of the things that we need and how we're going to construct. What are we going to need for this project? Well, we know we're going to need jute twine. Now, you can make this out of jute, you can make it out of hemp. It really doesn't matter. I've made them out of both. The one I'm currently working on is half between polished hemp and jute twine itself. So you can get that relatively anywhere, hobby shops, Tractor Supply, any of those places. Make some type of shuttle. Okay, this is a homemade net shuttle that I've made, and this one's a commercial one. It really all depends which one you feel comfortable with. It really doesn't matter, as long as you have something to load up your twining material here. And lastly, if you saw Steve's video, okay, he created a loom. I didn't really do anything different. I just did the same type of loom to have something that's going to allow me to work on the twining section itself. Let's examine some terms that you're going to need to know. These long sections that you have in your Tumpline are going to be known as the warps. The shorter sections that you have right here are going to be known as the wefts. Alright? That's going to come into play when you start to do your finger weaving and your twining. This load-bearing section right here, this is what's going to be up against your body. Right? This is going to be the twined section, and then you have your tails that are going to go out to either side, which is going to allow you to tie up your bedroll. The easiest thing that you're going to do is take 2 sticks and put them in the ground. Figure out how wide you want it. If you want something that's going to be about 20 feet long when you're done, okay, you're going to need to go about 25 feet. You're going to lose anywhere between 2 to 5% of your total length due to weaving. How tight it is, you know, the diameter of your material, whether it's a lot thinner, whether it's a lot thicker, you know, all these things come into play. So figure anywhere between 2 and 5% you're going to lose. And think of this as being 25 feet apart. We're going to take our material and we're going to wrap this around. We want 18 strands. So we would actually wrap this 9 times. Okay. So for the sake of discussion, we've wrapped this 9 times. Now, we find the center between all the sections themselves. And we would mark this with a different color piece of cordage so that we know that that is the center between them all. Then we just very simply, easily cut them on both sides. Suspend all disbelief and pretend that this is 25 feet long of our material. What I've done is I've tied off the center, and that's going to be important because when you put this on your loom, you have to know where that center is, because you have to measure back from your center point to this starting point, which is going to be your cross strap. How do we get this measurement for our strap between here and here? Well, you could actually take a cord and you could put it from shoulder to shoulder, and that's going to give you pretty good length as far as what you have. One way that I thought about doing it, and it makes it actually pretty simple, is if you take your chest size. Okay, I'm a 46-inch chest. Okay, what I did is I actually divided it by 4, because really what I want is half that distance. Okay, that's what we want. We want half that distance, because when this sits on the loom, this is our centerpiece. We start working from here, and then we work our way up up. And I'll show you that on the loom. Alright guys, so when we actually set this up on our loom, and what I've done is I've just created a model for you right now. This is our center line. And just remember, your twining section, you have to come back that measurement. Alright, so 12.5 inches for myself. And that's what I'm going to do. I come back 12.5 inches. Now this is important because this sets you up for your finger weaving on your tails. And you're going to have to do this on both sides. What you're going to do is you're going to take a string, just a piece of cordage, and you're going to start by going over, under, over, under, over, under, all the way across. Okay, so it's going to help you start to separate your strands. Then what you're going to want to do is you have to come back and do the same thing opposite. Once you've gone across, what you're going to do is you're going to actually kind of cinch this up. And as you can see, what is going to wind up happening is it gives you an upper and lower section of your cordage or your strands. Start by loading up your needle. I find it easy to actually load one side and not the other side. Okay, and we'll have that ready. Now, what you want to do is you want to take from underneath. Okay, we want to have our strands, and those are our strands. You can start on either the outside most, or you can start on the inside. If you start on this inside here, you can weave your tag end in. If not, just basically start on the outside. And this is where you're going to work. I wanted to show this to you here after we have done many passes, because it makes it a little easier to show you. So we're going to add a color, but it's going to be the same way whether or not you're starting or adding a color to a section. This tag end that you have here, you're going to encompass with the next color. And what I do is I will sit here and tie this off. And we'll add this underneath. You can cut this tag end and you can put a little bit of crazy glue in there or some super glue and you can hold it in place, or you can just weave it in. And that's kind of what I plan on doing with it. So we're going to take our shuttle. Now this is the important part. And this is how we're going to get that weaving pattern in there. We're going to take our shuttle and we're going to grab two of these. And we're going to pull this in, just like that. Okay, now we move to the next two, but you're going to grab the two of them. All right. See how that goes? And then it grabs this warp right here. Now again, as you can see where your line is, you're going to split that again. Now you come in here, and then you grab two of them. And just snug them up as you go along. Now again, you see where that comes out. Now just move down and grab 2. And you're just going to continue to work all the way across. Keeping them nice and tight. Just remember to grab 2 every time. Now, as you get to the end, all right, we don't have a second one to pick up, but that's okay because you're just going to go through here and then go through one more time. Now, we come back and we go to the next one. Now, this one we pick up on the way back. We pick up every one. And this is going to give us this ridge here. So we'll pick this up and we'll come back towards the end. Right. Keep everything tight. And just remember to keep track of what you're doing. Keep them tight. And if you have to, adjust them, tighten them up, adjust them, slide them in, and keep them as even as you can. Now, see that tag end? You're going to grab that right along with this other section. And just, again, it just weaves right in, and it's going to be colored by the, the color that you're using, so it's really not a big deal. Right, so that's how we do the strap portion, or your load bearing portion that's going to be on your body. It takes time, it's frustrating in the beginning, but like I said, after a series of passes, everything starts to actually lay flat for you and makes it easier while you're running the shuttle through. So just take your time, look at it, and if you need to pull stitches out, then you need to pull stitches out. Now let's move on to the tails and the finger weaving portion of your tump line. There's 2 types of finger weaving that I am aware of. One is known as a chevron type style, in which you're starting from the middle and you're taking your strands and they continue to go over and under all the way down through. Or the way I'm going to show you today is known as the diagonal weave. And that's when you take one strand and you weave it in between the rest of your strands. You pull it off to the end. Let's take a look at that because it's a little difficult to explain just by talking. You remember that cord that we put up here at the beginning of our twining section? And you remember how that created the upper and lower sections of your tump line. Well, your last strand is going to actually do the same thing. As you can see here, it separates the 2 and keeps them all in line. So what we're going to do is you start with your last cord and you go over the top of the next one. Come underneath and go under it. Then you come back over, under, 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 and then finally over again. Okay. Run your finger underneath again where that cord is. All right. May require you to tighten that up a little bit. Okay. If that's all right. Straighten everything up. And you're good to go for a next pass. Take your outside again. Over, under, 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 and end over. Okay. Cinch it up. Check everything out. Make sure everything is aligned. And that would be how you continue to do a diagonal weave. And notice that everything is on a diagonal. Now, there will come a point in time where you're going to want to have a split tail. If you want to. You don't have to. You can go all the way out, tie that off, and be done with it. However, I like to put split tails in mine. Take one of these clips, that last strand that's up, pull it up, keep it up out of your way. What you're going to want to do is now you go back here and you just start braiding half of what you have. Alright? So, what I'm going to do is, because I know I have that one there, I have 18 strands, so I'm going to do 9 strands. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That one winds up being my 9th. So I have 4 here, 4 on the bottom. That one was my 9th. Now just continue to work off. Just work off that section, and that's all you need to do. Same thing, no different. Pull that up there, work here, back to your over and under. The same thing in your diagonal pattern. And that's what you're going to do. Okay, tighten everything up. Okay, and there you go. When you go back to this section, you're going to work that side, and now you're going to have a split tail. And that's how you do a split. So that's it, guys. Tumplines had to construct one as well. You can consult with Steve's video on Stillwater Woodcraft, and you can look at this video, and I'm pretty sure between that and whatever else is out there on the internet, you'll have a pretty good working knowledge. It's just a matter of getting your skills up there and actually creating that tumpline relatively inexpensively. So we had the history of the tumpline, showed you how to make a tumpline. Let's talk about actually how you tie in your bedroll, or how you set that up. And there's 2 methods that I'm aware of that you can use to actually tie up a bedroll. So let's take a look at those now. So now you want to tie up your bedroll. There's 2 ways that I know of. I prefer the first method over the second method because I haven't really used the second method all that much. It also is going to depend upon how much stuff you put in your bedroll, or whether or not it's just the blanket itself and a few extra items, or the blanket itself and a lot of items. So let's take a look at the first way. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take our blanket and basically fold it in thirds. Take our Tump. Put that on one side. Throw this on the other side. Now, we just simply roll this up. Yeah, we're going to untwist a section here. Adjust this a little bit. Again, this is going to depend on the size of the blanket. Take your two tails, cross it in the middle. Come back, and then you can tie this off. Because this is a split tail, what you can do as well is you can come back through. Take this section. Then you can tie that. So. Okay, and that would be one way to tie your bedroll. Of course, again, it depends upon the length of your tump line and how big your blanket is, or how big your blanket is with everything that you may be putting in your bedroll itself. Okay, you want it pretty tight, and then it'll start to form to your body. Take this, throw it up over your shoulders. It should be there. It should ride nice and tight on your body. Okay? Still gives you the availability of moving. Still gives you the availability of using both arms. You can also put it through that way as well, and you can still move and go along this way as well. Let's take a look at the second method now. All right, so the next way, again, I'm not too familiar with this method, but still take the blanket, you're going to fold it in thirds. What you're doing is you're running your tails actually through the blanket itself. So take this. Roll. Okay, you need to untwist this. This does not give you a lot of adjustment. So if I was to do this, take this around one side here. Around. Then you can do it like that as well. This one's a little looser. I don't like the fact that it is that loose, you know, on my body. You can see it hangs a lot lower. You know, you could wear it like this as well, I guess. You know, again, dependent upon how long your tump line is, how much stuff you put in your tump line, how thick your blanket is. I just don't like the fact that it's relatively difficult to adjust, and I don't like that system. So that's it. So that's two different ways that you can use a tump line to tie up your bedroll. Again, it's all going to come into play for a couple of different things. One, how long your tump line is. Two, how much you put in your bedroll, whether it's just a blanket or whether you add extra accoutrements. Three, how thick your blanket is as well. I prefer the first method over the second one. It just gives me more of an ease of adjustment in that strap. But the second one may work for you. So now let's move on to some other things that we talked about at the School of the Longhunter.